This is why I switched to the Pixel 5. Now, this phone obviously needs no introduction. This is Google's latest flagship device, the Pixel 5. Now, on paper, it may not sound like it's a flagship, but there's a few small details that really make this phone unique and flagship worthy. So let's quickly talk about its specs. Inside the Pixel 5 is Qualcomm's Snapdragon 765G processor with the Adreno 620 GPU. It has 8 gigs of LPDDR4X RAM, 128 gigs of storage, and a whopping 4,000 mAh battery. Now there's also a 12.2 megapixel main camera with an f1.7 aperture and a 16 megapixel ultra wide with an f2.2 aperture. Now up front you have a gorgeous 6-inch OLED display which supports up to 90 Hz refresh rate. It is only a Full HD Plus panel, but I think we don't really need anything higher resolution since the display itself is sharp, vibrant, and pretty color accurate. Now, one thing I will say though, I love the fact that all the sides of the screens are even. There's no chin, there's no notch up top, and the side bezels are relatively thin. Now, that also means you lose front-firing speakers, which I'll just say now just doesn't sound as good as the Pixel 4 or 4 XL. Speakers on the Pixel 5 is probably the weakest point about this device. It lacks details in a low end, and even though it gets relatively loud, it's just not as good as the speakers on the previous Pixel devices. The bottom-firing speaker sounds loud and a lot better than the under-display speaker up front, so if you're big into watching movies or listening to music out loud, you may just want to use headphones like the Google Pixel Buds, which I checked out a couple months ago. Now when it comes to its build and overall look, I really love the way this sort of sage Pixel 5 looks. It's just so different looking, and the fact that the back of the phone isn't made out of glass, it's a nice change of scenery. The matte texture helps grip the phone better, but we'll see how that'll hold up in the next few months. I was hoping the phone would be a little bit more green, but I'll probably end up using a dbrand skin soon to change the phone's look even further. I'm thinking of picking up either the Seaphone green color or Sunrise orange from their new pastel drop, so just let me know in the comments down below which one I should go for. Now if you guys want to pick up skins for your Pixel 5, make sure to check out the first link below, or go to dbrand.com/heymarkl, and yeah, special shout out to dbrand for sponsoring a portion of this video. Now moving on to the phone's performance, I know it's using a slower processor and slightly worse graphics, but this is the beauty of Pixel devices. They're built by Google, which ties in software and hardware together to give users the best experience possible. Throughout the week I've had this phone, I didn't have issues with lag or any slowdowns whatsoever. Some apps did crash a few times the first day I switched to this phone, but haven't really experienced anything recently. I'm mostly on social media apps or answering emails most of the time I'm on my phone, so as long as they're working and doesn't lag, I'm happy. Now we all knew how bad battery life was on the Pixel 4 and 4 XL, and while it did get slightly better via software updates, the battery just wasn't big enough for all the tech that was packed inside that phone. Luckily there's a 4,080 mAh battery on this tiny device, which is twice the size of what's inside the 4 XL, which is just crazy. So for the past week I've used this as my daily phone. I usually grab my phone off the charger by 6 a.m. and by the time I'm getting ready to go to bed around 10:30, I'd have about 40 to 50% battery left at the end of the night, which is insane. Now obviously everyone uses their phone differently. That's what I experience. You may have different results if and when you decide to pick one up, but battery life, yeah, it's great. And also it has wireless charging even though it has an all aluminum chassis, which is pretty impressive. Moving on to the best part about the Pixel are its cameras. Google decided to ditch the telephoto lens and instead put an ultra-wide sensor as a second camera, which in this case I'm not mad about, because I was really curious how Pixel 5 can process ultra-wide shots, and the answer, pretty darn good actually. In my opinion, the Pixel 5 and iPhone 11 Pro, soon to be iPhone 12 Pro, have the best ultra-wide cameras in the market right now. The reason being, the ultra-wides I shot from the Pixel doesn't look super processed, which I really like. I've used a ton of Android devices in the past with ultra-wides and they just don't look as good. I can't really go into detail as to why, but in my eyes, the way it looks at a camera just looks way better than other Android phones. In terms of what's new for Pixel 5, it's night sight portrait mode and portrait light. Night sight is pretty self-explanatory. This just means that you can take portrait mode in lower lighting conditions so that you can get really clean portrait shots at night. The cooler feature here though is portrait light, which allows you to add extra light to illuminate your subjects, but not only that, you can move the lighting moving around, which is really neat. And this is something we've never really seen before from other phones. For me, the Pixel 5 is one of the cleanest and best all-around Android device that I've used this year. As a longtime iOS user, this is the closest thing you can get to an iPhone for Android. And if you're having a hard time switching from iOS to Android, the Pixel 5 would be the best phone for you to pick up to start that transition. It's got great software, the best camera that I've used on Android, and battery life on this can easily last you a day and a half without charging. Sure, you don't have access to iMessage or AirDrop, but you can easily get by your daily routine without either of those two features. It's a pretty easy transition in my opinion, and it only took me a few hours to download all the apps that I use on my iPhone, and it was set and ready to go. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you just watched, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're getting so close to hitting 20K. You guys have been killing it lately. I appreciate all the support, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.